I think my biggest problem with this is that we'd been playing for like 5 hours by the time we got around to this, and I needed to wrap my head around after we completed the quest that I need to pick the thing off the Discover that I didn't want to get the other two things to happen. And I forgot that all the time.
Welcome to episode 503 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Friday, June 27th, 2025 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Rend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Talbot, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, SSJ5 Goku, and NY Kiwi. And by our patrons of the week, Windrunner and Mark Sheriff. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder, we of course had Theorycrafting, which we'll talk about in the Dexplanation segment. I did a thing. I opened Pandora's box. I re-downloaded Magic Arena and have been playing drafts, and gosh, is it dangerous for me to be able to draft anytime I want in my house.
Yep.
Especially with a set that's really cool and thematic. But yeah, here we are. I'm already at like diamond in standard, and I might have just hit diamond in standard, or I'm like just about to. And I'm diamond in draft.
Yeah, I just hit diamond in draft this morning too, but I don't think I've been playing quite as much as you have.
You didn't just re-download it a week and a
grind
half ago.
Through standard to get enough gold to do that.
And just wild carded red deck wins, which fortunately is extremely good right now. So that works out for me.
I can't do standard in Magic. I just have my Roxanne Brawl deck or my Narset Brawl deck, and I just do that. And I throw rocks at people until I have enough gold to be able to draft again.
Yeah, I play mono red, and I mean, just real quick note: the mono red deck right now is a mouse deck, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And enjoy that for another week, because they're going to ban the bejesus out of that probably on Monday. But yeah. Anyway, This is not a Magic podcast. This is not Puzzlet. This is a Hearthstone podcast.
But yeah, these are the things that happen when new expansion is coming out imminently, and we're not quite there yet, right? So we've just sort of been doing quests in terms of Hearthstone. And then next week we'll have the Brawl, and the following week we'll have the cards, right? So
yeah, we have to pick a day for our community day co-stream during the pre-release Brawl, which I realized as we're in the middle of recording the podcast right before that is going to happen. But we'll send out a notification through our Patreon, which you can join for free, by the way, at patreon.com/CoinConcede, or in our Discord. We'll announce that too, because we are going to do that, because there'll be Twitch drops live, and yeah, we will do that next week. But yeah, it is kind of new expansion eve, I suppose. And I've made a lot of progress in Final Fantasy 13. I'm at one of, I don't think it's the final boss. I know there's like 4 more chapters to go, but I'm fighting the Space Pope. So that's a thing.
Which of the 3 are you playing?
The first one.
Okay.
The first one, the original one, and then we'll see what happens after that, if I go to 13-2 or if I try to play a different mainline game.
My understanding is that Lightning Returns is pretty solid, but that 13-2 was mediocre.
Oh, those are different things. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 3. I guess people liked Lightning.
I feel like Voxy right now. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll do one of those, or I'm gonna play a different mainline game, one or the other. Yeah, I also got baited by one of my co-hosts into playing Califero Demon Hunter, which if you are bad at luck, like I am, is not the deck for you. This is who came up with this nonsense. I don't. I want to know who to credit slash blame for this disaster of a deck, because
Well, I got it from JT Snow, of course.
yeah.
JT Snow found it on HS Guru, and the list that they found was first streamed by Baby Bear. Whether that means she's to blame, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can blame her anyway. That's fair enough. We can blame her for that. So, long story short, you're playing Cliff Dive DH, but instead of playing Ball Hogs, you're playing Blob of Tar, because my Blobby Boy is always a good thing to fit into any deck. And what you do is you just stall with poison taunts for a while, and you cliff dive eventually and get more poison taunts, and you also run the location so you can get 1/1s, and then you play Califero. And if you've forgotten what Califero is, don't feel bad about that, because there's no reason you should know what it does in the first place. It is an 8 mana 6/6 that draws a minion from your deck and turns all the minions on board except for Califero into that. So you're running Rag, you're running Illidari Inquisitor, and the idea is that you fill up your board with garbage, and then you turn it into Ragnaros or Illidari Inquisitor, and your opponent dies if you are good at drawing things, which I am not, because I had a list with Xavius, and I turned my whole board into Xaviuses one time. I turned them into, there was something else that was terrible. I don't remember what it was. It was not a good 8-drop, I'll tell you that much. It was certainly a bad 1-drop or something in that deck. If you are better at drawing things that you want to instead of the things that are there and are going to screw you over, then that is apparently good. I did actually win some games with it, but it was just through like playing control DH. It wasn't ever through like the cool way that you win. It was always through the boring, I'm going to play a control deck until you give up on life kind of experience.
Sometimes you can just get there with Cliff Dive Inquisitors, or actually just playing them. Some lists also run Rag, like Vicious Syndicate did have a list for this, which was similar to the list that was originally streamed by Baby Bear. Again, not sure whether she made the deck or not. But I will say I had fun with it. I got to do the Califero thing a couple times. You know, we don't have a lot of great, we don't have like bird watching or something, which would be amazing in this deck. But sometimes even just getting a lot of Blobby Boy taunts. By Blobby Boy, we of course mean Blob of Tar, the new 2/4 4-mana poisonous summons taunts elemental, in case anyone was wondering. But Steve has been calling him Blobby Boy, so that's what we're calling him apparently. And so I went like 7-2 with it, and then baited Steve with it, and then went back to playing aggro. And
yeah, as one does, and I fell for it, hook, line, sinker, because there's a viable control deck that you haven't played yet. Okay, I'm an idiot. Let's go. And
it was like part of my final Legend climb. I finally got into Legend. I didn't. I've been spending as much time either working on classes or editing YouTube videos as playing this month. So I only just hit Legend. I had managed to get myself into top 1K last night. And then this morning I was like, what can go wrong? I'm going to play some Standard. And I immediately lost like 4 games in a row. Maybe I like won one first, and then I lost 4 in a row. Summer school starts later than regular school, so I have time to play, which is good or bad. But then I decided, you know what? Menagerie Priest is good. There is a good aggro priest. Why am I not just playing it? I'm just going to play it. So I start playing it. Goku like immediately starts spectating me. Just by chance, he saw that I was on and started spectating me, which often is like a sign of bad luck, I will say. Goku, you can spectate me anytime you want. I know that you're listening to this. But this time it was actually a sign of good luck, and I was able to win my way up, even though, through a few little misplays, and I got all the way up to almost top 1K, and decided, okay, I have time to queue one more game, which like I didn't really. It's an aggro deck, when you play aggro decks, you convince yourself like the games are short, but occasionally they're not. And I run into a warrior and I'm like, oh gosh, this might not be short. And they greet me. So I said greetings. And then passed my turn because I didn't have a 1-drop. And I'm going, oh no, I don't have a 1-drop against a warrior. And then they coin conceded. So thank you to Rhodey so much for the coin concede. You had incredible timing. You prevented me from being late to work. You got me so that I had an even run over the day with the same number of wins and losses. And it's just always really fun to run into listeners. I had a little chat with them. So early coin concede to you, Rhodey. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually enjoying this meta. There's just like so much to follow with reveals, and we're going to talk a lot about theory crafting very soon. So there's been lots to do, but I have enjoyed myself enough to get that final push up to legend.
I would also argue that Goku's not necessarily so much bad luck as that once you see them spectating, you feel the pressure of wanting to make that the best game in 1K played by a coin concede host that they've seen all day.
Yeah, there can be. Well, and I actually sometimes play somewhat fast, so I'll like play out my turn, and then he'll be like, "Oh, you could have done this." It's like, shoot.
You could have, but you didn't.
I could have, but I didn't.
To assert dominance.
I mean, that is some of what happens in theory crafting, because Wicked is driving and I'm co-oping, and there'll be moments where, like, he makes a play and I'm like, wait, except for half the time when I'm saying, wait, he was actually right and he should have made the play.
Or it's 11:30 at night and I'm trying to keep my eyes open and I'm not making good plays at all, like the last Mage game that we played where I just misplayed horribly and we still won somehow. Yeah.
I do have a competitive advantage being 3 hours in the past, I think.
Yes,
on
you are, and being closer to Sunshine than I have been, even.
Yeah, it was Sunshine like I was like 7 o'clock and it was still sunny here.
Oh yeah. Oh, even at noon it hasn't been sunny in Boston. So yeah. But anyway, we have quite a bit to cover. We have a lot to talk about in theory crafting, and we have quite a bit of news as well. So we're going to get into that, and then we're going to talk about fun decks that we played.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so first of all, we have bundles to give away. We have standard Lost City of Ungoro pre-release bundles to give away. That will be next week, not this week. So what you're going to want to do is you'll want to join the Patreon. You do not have to pay for the Patreon if you do not want to or are not in a position to do so financially. There is a free tier on the Patreon that is good enough for you to enter the giveaway. I don't remember if I said that these are courtesy of Blizzard, but I will say it again. So you do not have to pay anything to enter on Patreon. You do not have to join a paid tier. You can join a free tier and you will be just as eligible to enter as if you are in a paid tier. You can also join our Discord, and we will have information in the Discord about how you can enter there. And we will also have bundles to give away we'll probably do one on the Community Day stream and one on when we record the next podcast on Twitch. So you want to follow our Community Day stream, which will be gameplay, which will be earlier in the week, and then presumably Thursday when we record the podcast. If you are watching it live, we will have a bundle to give away during the podcast as well. Okay, so that business out of the way. There is a Lost City of Ungoro cinematic trailer that dropped after all the reveals are done. It is well done. We only get one of these a year, so go watch it. Maybe if more people watch it, they will make more of them. And we have a shop update. There is more news after the shop update, but I'm getting the shop update out of the way first because the rest of the news will be a little bit awkward if we have to follow it with a shop update. So, yay. Anyway, we have a few skins that are returning to the shop. We have a Ner'zhul bundle, which is 2,000 rune stones or $20, which is a diamond shaman skin with 3 shaman packs, 2 golden standard packs. This was This is a repeat bundle. It was originally in April of 2024, but it is back. If you do not have Hedonus as your priest legendary, first of all, what are you doing with your life? Second of all, it is available for 1,500 gold or $10 USD with a card back and priest, and looks like just the card back. There might be priest packs. You'll find out when you buy it. Anyway, there is the Treason Tamsin Warlock skin is returning to the shop for $7 USD or 1,000 gold. And then if you are in need of signature cards from Into the Emerald Dream, there is a bundle with 1 random signature from the set and 7 Into the Emerald Dream packs for $25 USD or 2,500 runestones, as well as a golden signature into the Emerald Dream bundle, which is 2 signature legendaries from the set and 5 golden packs for $50 USD or 5,000 runestones. That is what is currently available in the shop right now. And we also got some news about some things that are going to be in the shop. But before we do that, we have to play this.
Time is money, friend.
So, first of all, really quick, there was an announcement on Twitter or X or whatever you would like to call it, because Play Hearthstone still does not post on Blue Sky, despite me complaining about it a lot. That there is they're going to be revisiting the arena rewards. So presumably that is, and they say explicitly that includes changes to gold rewards. So if you have been unhappy with the rewards at either of the new arena modes, hold tight. They don't have anything to announce yet, but they are going to be making changes there. So we'll get that out of the way first. And then we got the announcement of the King Crush pet. That is the long-awaited first pet that they teased around this time last year when we had the board kerfuffle, if you remember. So around this time last year, we found out, or before the second expansion, that there was not going to be another board, and there was an announcement from Nathan Lyon Smith, is the game director, that they were cutting back on the boards because they were working on other new cosmetics, including pets. So we finally got the information about what pets were going to look like in Hearthstone, and King Crush is the first one. So it is adorable. It is incredibly cute, almost illegally cute. The King Crush, I will say, he is very emotive. He waves at you. We had him equipped for a few games while we were doing Theorycrafting last night, because they were on the Theorycrafting account, and most of the people who were playing had them equipped. So you can pick a few skins for them, or you earn skins for them as you earn experience while playing them. It starts out as a base one. You get a couple of different chromikins, and then eventually a King plush version of it. It will be very sad when your board gets wiped. It'll be very happy when you do something cool. It'll jump up and down, and occasionally there's an alternate game end screen that pops up that is incredibly slow, but with a whole animated thing, and then he'll either be cheering for you at the end of the game, or he will be like sitting on his head, knocked on his butt afterwards if you have lost. It is very well done. It will react to your emotes as well. So if you emote oops, it'll look embarrassed. If you emote hide, I assume it'll wave at you. I don't think we weren't really emoting at people, so we weren't testing that. It's very well done, and it's very cute, and it's clear that a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, and you can see, so if you have it, you see it in the bottom left corner of your screen instead of what would normally be the board there. If your opponent has it, you see it in the upper right. If you squelch them, it will also squelch the pet's emotes, although not necessarily the other stuff that the pet is doing. So, and it is very cute, but we do have a butt coming.
Yeah, there's
Oh, do we ever?
There's a bud, yes. So the way that you get the pet is through a new feature called the Dark Moon Fair. They tried this a couple times for Battlegrounds, and now it is here for Constructed. So I'm gonna read it just because it's probably better coming from them than it is from me. To get King Crush and other collectible cosmetics, visit the Dark Moon Fair's newest attraction, Dark Moon Fair Treasures. Here you can earn wondrous treasures, and all items up for grabs are part of a themed collection of curated rewards for Hearthstone cosmetic enthusiasts, and the first pull is free. When the fair visits the tavern, the treasures booth displays 10 magical items unlike anything you've seen before, such as brand new signature cards, unique hero skins, and an excitable pet raring to meet its new owner. Here's what's available in the debut collection inspired by the deadly dinosaurs and fabled explorers of the lost city of Ungoro. So there is King Crush pet. There's a diamond legendary version of Neria the Crater. There is a signature legendary version of Opu the Unseen. A hero skin set of Aegwin Mage, hero skin and card back. 2 copies of a signature creature of the Sacred Cave. There's a hero skin of Field Researcher Elise for Druid. 2 copies of signature rare cards of Volcanic Thrasher, a Clever Girl card back, 1 golden Lost City of Ungoro card pack, and then 2 common signature cards for Questing Assistant. So that'll be available from July 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific to July 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific. The first pull is free. The problem is the rest of the pulls. So the pulls escalate in cost from the first one. So from here, we're going to go, if you're watching on the stream, we're going to go to Hearthstone Top Decks that breaks down the cost. And so the first pull is free. The next one is $2 and then $4 and then $6. Fine. But they escalate more and more. The 9th one costs $30. The 10th one costs $50. And if you're going to pull 10 times, it's going to cost you a total of $158 USD, which is a lot of dollars. That would be okay. Or it probably wouldn't be okay, but it might be better if all of the pulls were equally weighted, which they are not. So what we're showing on the stream and what you can see in the links in the show notes are a table that Hearthstone Top Decks pulled together from, there's a financial, an odds disclosure. There's a page that Blizzard maintains that has the odds for all of the packs and any random cosmetics, anything that's random that you can pay for, they have to disclose for various regulatory reasons. So they disclose on a separate page the pull odds for each thing on the Dark Moon Fair. And the pull odds are weighted. So what that means is that they effectively put X number of copies of each thing into a bag. And whenever you pull, you're pulling one thing out of the bag. And if you pull one of those, then it pulls all the others of that type out. So when you go to pull originally, the first pull, there is 1 copy of King Crush in the bag. There are 300 copies of the signature common card, 280 golden card packs, 110 Clever Girl card packs, and so on and so forth. So the odds of you getting the pet on your first pull for free are 0.1%.
Yes.
For reference, again, we talked about Magic at the beginning of the show, and if you've been following any of the news about the Magic set, they are selling collector boosters of the new Magic set for $110 right now. And the reason for that is that there are cards in there that are 3% pulls that are going for like $700-800. Your odds are worse than that of pulling Crush the first time. And I mean, we are all Hearthstone players. We understand how probability works. A 0.1% chance is put your hands together and pray.
It'll happen for about 1 in 1,000 people.
Yeah.
If you get it on that first pull, it was free. All right. But so Hearthstone put together a Dark Moon Fair simulator, which displays the odds for you, and you can try it out for yourself. So I tried it out a bunch.
We can even just do it right now, right? Like we can do it live, right? So you can see one of the nice things that it does for you is it shows you the odds every time that you pull. So we're gonna pull. Watch me pull it this time because that's how my luck is.
Please no. The
So we're
odds
gonna
are not in your
pull-
favor.
Okay, so we got the Elise signature, which is actually
Pretty good.
well, that's good. It's actually bad for your odds of pulling King Crush, because when you pull the higher things out first, then it leaves more of the lower things, and it actually reduces the odds that you're going to pull a King Crush. So we've spent 0 money, and now we've gotten a signature Elise. So we're going to pull again. And we got the questing assistance. So now it's a 0.2% chance to pull King Crush. We're going to pull again for $4. We got the Volcanic Thrashers. It's still a 0.2% chance to pull King Crush. We spend $6. We're up to $12 now. We got the Golden Card Pack. It's now up to a 0.4% chance to pull King Crush. The next pull is $10. So now we're $22 in. And we pulled the, whatever this is, one of the signatures. Now it's up to a 0.5% chance, and the next pull is $13 for a total of $35. We pull again, we get the card back. Now it's up to a whopping 1.1% chance to pull King Crush. And it's $18 to bring us up to $53 total. Now we've pulled the portrait, so we've paid $53, it's up to a 2.5% chance. The next pull is $25, and we've gotten the Ope of the Unseen, so now we're $78 in. Now it's a 6.7% chance to get King Crush, or a 93.3% chance to get the Diamond Signature for $30, and now we're $108 in. Yep, we pulled the signature. So the only thing left, now we have a 100% chance to pull King Crush for another $50, so we spent $158, and we've gotten King Crush.
So I did this a lot of times because I was mad about it, and I was also watching something, and it was kind of mesmerizing to do it on the sped up.
It's like watching a train crash over and over again.
Yes. Yeah.
So I did it over 100 times. 88% of the time, I had to spend the full $158. I have been doing confidence intervals with a student in statistics recently, so I was like, cool, I will calculate the confidence interval for that. I can say with 95% certainty that the chance of paying the full $158 for King Crush is over 80% and probably, again, closer to the 90%. So it's at least 82% odds that you're paying the full price. And if you're not paying full price, you're most likely paying 108. Right. I did one time get it for 22, but like, I bet that that's less than a 1% chance. I would have done the theoretical probabilities, but I'd already spent all this time, and it was complicated enough that I was like, no. But we can say confidently, it is very likely that if you keep going until you get Crush, that's what you will spend. So if you would buy a bundle in the shop that said you get these things plus Crush for $158, okay, then go for it, because that is what you're doing. And maybe you'll get lucky and you'll get King Crush before something else that you want. Probably not, but maybe. However, if you would only be willing to spend a smaller amount of money for it, this is not a good idea. Yeah. Unless you really want the other things. But then again, even if what you really want is one of, like, you really want the Mage portrait, for example, or you really want the, like, signature Apu, those are not great odds either. Decide how much is the maximum you would spend for that. Like, if the maximum you would spend for it is $12, don't do it. If the maximum you would spend for it is $22 and it's one of the more rare items on the list, I obviously can't tell you how to spend your money, but I would recommend that you not do it, because it's most likely not going to give you that. And so then you're either spending more than you intended, or you're spending it and then you're not necessarily getting what you want. It really locks the pet into the situation where you can't get it without all this other stuff. You don't care about the other stuff, then that's kind of a problem. I mean, to take kind of an extreme example, we have some people in the community who are blind and use the accessibility app to play Hearthstone. Signature cards have literally zero value for them. They are purely visual. Whereas pets, they're interactive, they do make sounds, right? So some of our community members were saying like, well, I would pay some money for a pet, but not $158, and the rest of the stuff is mostly not that impactful. A card back has no value really for you if you can't see it, right?
Yeah, like I could imagine, you know, a lot of the people who you know buy bundles or willing to spend like a decent amount of money, basically capping at $35. And remember, you want to treat this like you're going to the casino, right? Like you are saying, all right, I'm going to spend $35 because that's what I'm willing to gamble, and I'm gambling for fun, but I'm setting that limit because I don't want to spend more than that, right? You go to a casino, just carry the certain amount with you, and once you've done it, you're done. Don't do more. This is that. But unfortunately, it is even more toxic than it appears, because when you factor in the actual figures with which you can purchase rune stones, there is always a remainder. So in their pricing thing where they say the US equivalent for, because I think they legally have to give all the specific info on the probability. That's why they give the probability, is they're legally obligated.
Oh, they would never. I mean, I mean, they're just a company, right? Like Blizzard corporate is never giving, or Microsoft or whoever you want to blame, is never giving that stuff if they don't legally have to, because why would they, right?
Right. So, but that's where we get these examples and things, and they also list like, okay, they have a table that's got polls 1 to 10, cost in runestones, USD equivalent. Well, that's very nice. Okay, so number 2 is 200, and that's $2. Except you can't just buy 200 runestones. The minimum you can get is 500. So if you were to get 500 runestones for $5, that's just going to get you one pull, because the second pull costs 400. So your 500 is not the 600 total that you need to do, the first paid and the second paid pulls. And then, okay, well, say I wanted to spend $10 for 1,000 runestones. Well, that gets me the 600 I need for pulls 2 and 3. But then when I get to pull 4, that costs 600. I've spent 600. I'm now 200 runestones short. And it happens every time, right? Like, you spend $15, you get 1,500 runestones. That'll get you paid pulls 2, 3, and 4. And now, the next one costs 1,000. If you get $20 worth, like every single time, there is a remainder of runestones that makes you go like, well, if I want to do the next pull, I now am having to do another microtransaction. Because every person who engages with runestones at all, when the stuff that you buy with runestones does not match up evenly to the amounts that you purchase runestones, that is a lot of people that have a runestone remainder that is basically money paid to them that that they don't give you anything for. It's just like everyone who engages with the system has a 200 to 600 runestone amount that doesn't get spent. And like, I don't know, maybe if you do BGs, which has some of the like really little amount runestone things for like, emotes or whatever, like maybe that can get you to actually hitting 0. But in general, like, these systems are the way they are because they can extract more money for giving you less. And so even if you are going to get 2 of the 8,000 runestone bundles, which are $80 each, right? $79.99. You're going to have 200 runestones left after doing all the pulls, right? There's always that remainder. There are no clean values. So it really is just kind of toxic at every turn. And I genuinely feel bad for the artists because I do not imagine any world where the artist wants their product to get shipped this way, because people are gonna view these things so negatively. And when you consider in like Magic Arena, it is less than $10 to get a pet. I'll maybe give that it does fewer things than these a bit. Like these ones you can like level them up and they get different sort of skins, but it's not $43 more in value. It's certainly not $150 more in value. And the way they've set it up is just like, there are probably people, if you say, because like the very last poll cost $50, so this has a value of $50, if you marketed it as just, you can buy this in the shop for $50, people would be like, whoa, That's a lot for a pet. But the people who think it's really cool and worth it would get it. And there would be negativity, but there would not be this much negativity.
Right.
Well, if we
Right.
think about like the mythic heroes, they're what, like 60? Unless you get them in a bundle.
Something like
And
that. Yeah. And I think they're as,
and they're pretty
interactive.
popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not something that felt justified for me, but I know a lot of people who really love them, and they have a lot of the same things where like you have a different screen at the end with the game and different emotes and they react during the game and all that stuff. If they had priced pets around that, then people would have been like, well, that's about what I expected because that's what Mythic Heroes cost. Or even slightly more, they would have been like, well, I don't love it, but that's slightly more than Mythic Heroes cost, and we kind of got used to that. Now, comparing anything to Baldur's Gate 3 makes it sound bad, but when you compare it to something like Baldur's Gate 3, it's like, really, I can get a whole giant game that Magesa has already spent over 200 hours in.
Game of the year. Yeah.
Right.
A friend of the show, Mad at Arms, tends to measure things in copies of Hades. And
So
I
this
think that's
is
also a good way to think about it.
8 copies
this-
of Hades or something?
8 Hadeses, yeah. Like, yeah.
I mean, Hades is also a steal by any means, but it does put into perspective. However, there are absolutely people who, this game is a major hobby and they want to do it. But when it's couched in this way that makes it seem like you could get it for less, it's just either taking advantage of people, or I think making people mad because they're like, what, do you think I'm going to be taking advantage of this by this? And also for people on the outside who don't play Hearthstone, they see articles about this and they're like, wow, I'm glad I don't play Hearthstone. There's so much gotcha stuff in there without, when getting the cards to play is not like that. Yes, you pull card packs, but it's not like the same sort of value proposition as this is. And it's not like you only have a 0.1% chance to get a legendary on your first go. It makes the game look bad. And I feel like that's really sad as well because we love this game.
It's just insulting at the end of the day, right? Like, I think, and they didn't really need to do this, right? Like, if they were going to charge $50 for it, they could charge $50 for it and people would buy it. If they really needed to charge more than that, and I get, like, this thing was in development for over a year, right? So you expect that it's going to cost you some money. But the fact that, first of all, they're making you buy all this other stuff that you may or may not want. Like, and we just talked about the signatures that, like, that's something if you're visually impaired, you actively do not want because it's actually a net negative to you. But regardless, like, I don't care about a lot of those signature cards anyway. I even despite having my site, like, I don't care about those. I don't care about the diamond version of that card. Like, I don't really need a card back. I'm never going to set it, right? I only care about that, but I have to, it's like, it reminds me of like in the like late 90s, early 2000s, when you wanted to buy a new video game console at launch and you would go in and you would have to buy 2 of the crappiest games you've ever seen in your life and like some plastic accessory that you don't need in order to have the privilege of buying the console. And that's kind of what this feels like. But it's the fact that they're not upfront with how you're going to pay for it, and the fact that they're going in and saying, oh, you can get this for free, and then it's a 0.1% chance. Like, at least if you were like, so there's what, like, there's 10 things in here. If it was a 10% chance to get it, okay, fine, right? So like, you got a 10% chance to hit this for free. Maybe it'll cost you $2. Maybe you'll get unlucky. Like, maybe you start pulling. Like, I thought when they first announced this, like, oh, this is a new thing, they don't know how to price it, so they're testing out price points, right? When I thought it was fair. But this is not fair. This is a carnival game. Ironically, they're using like Darkmoon Faire. This is like a rigged carnival game.
Yeah.
And that's like, I have generally been very on the side of the team, even when they make things that seem like they might be negative business decisions, right? Because like, I understand that there are a lot of people who are working really hard on this game. And if nobody pays them, then we're not going to have a game, right? Like these games like this are not free because they're charities. They're free because they are a profit machine. And I understand how, capitalism works. I may not like it, but I understand it. However, like things like the arena rewards, like I could understand them making changes that were intended to get people who are just playing arena and going infinite to eventually spend money into the game, right? Whether or not you like that or not, I understand it. I'm not saying that I support it, but I understand where their motivation would come from. This destroys all that, right? Because this is just being disingenuous up front on how they are selling it and making it seem like you are going to be able to get this for a reasonable price and not showing you up front, unless you're going to something like a Hearthstone where you can see how much you're actually paying, not showing you how much upfront you are eventually going to need to spend. They are not saying in that article that it is going to cost you $158 to pull 10 times. They're saying that the price increases, but it does not say how much. And for it to jump from like 2 to 4, and then all of a sudden it's going up from 18 to 25 to 30 to 50, like even if you're starting to engage with it, it's set up in a way that doesn't really allow you to understand how much you're going to be spending until it's already such a sunk cost, and you may as well go the rest of the way.
I mean, not even may as well go the rest of the way, but like, we are part of a group, and our listeners are part of a group who are highly engaged, right? Who are going to look at the odds or be told the odds, right? The vast, vast majority of players, and people who are not so tuned in to like gotcha is evil, are going to use the free pull, and then they're going to be like, it's just a couple bucks to like do the next one. Maybe I'll do 15 or 20, and they get screwed by that runestone remainder situation. Maybe they go as high as like, I'm willing to spend $35, right? And then maybe they get one of the things they wanted. Maybe they don't, but they're done at that point because they know that they can't spend more than that. That was maybe already a little more that they wanted to. And a lot of people end at that point. A lot of people, fewer people, I would hope, but a lot of people still just don't have that self-control. And I suppose there is mercy in that it is capped at 10, unlike, the true gotcha games, right? With the 1 to 5 star pull characters and stuff. When I first heard that this was a gotcha system, I assumed that all 10 things were pets. And
that's the other thing too. Yeah.
And I would be like annoyed but on board with that, right? Like, okay, you're launching this new pet thing. There's one pet that's rarer than all the others, and they have different rarity. Okay, like it would still be scummy, but at least this thing that you've been hyping up, everyone would get to experience having a pet, even if most people had the 1-star pet or whatever, however you want to frame it. But the fact that it's like, hey, we released this cool new thing that we want to share with you, and you basically need to pay $160, but we're not going to tell you that.
Yeah. It's like, that's what's really upsetting about it, is that it makes people like us look like idiots, right? Because like we've like generally when they're selling things or they're changing the way that it's working, like we can understand from like a business perspective, like again, may not be happy about it, but we could kind of understand and justify it. There's no justifying this. There is none. And it's just, it makes it a lot harder for someone like me. I'll speak for myself. It makes it a lot harder for someone like me to give them the benefit of the doubt when they start changing something economic. Like I felt like they're trying to do the right thing, and sometimes they get the numbers wrong when they do things like the quest reworks or the arena rewards, right? Because they do go back and revise it a lot of the times, and maybe they'll revise this, who knows? But it is a lot harder when they are doing something like this that is blatantly disingenuous and not something that you can really excuse with, oh, they're trying their best and they got the numbers wrong. There's no excusing this. This is blatantly deceptive, and I mean, the fact that there's a disclaimer that says that you have to be over 18 in certain countries to do it is kind of your first clue. Like, if you have to put that disclaimer in a new feature for your game, maybe you're not the hero of this story.
Yeah. For countries with, you know, more modernized legislatures than ours. Yeah. It also is just, the timing makes me feel like, okay, so this will come out, it'll be really bad, but hopefully how cool the new expansion is will sort of smooth over the bad feels of pets. But I think it just as easily ends up going the other way, where the bad vibes of this pet gotcha system is going to overshadow how cool the new cards are. As noted by, we've spent, I don't know, at least 20 minutes on this, maybe more, and we have theory crafting we want to talk about, right? Like, theory crafting is awesome. had a lot of fun as always, and it like, we have to dedicate a bunch of time to this because I desperately don't want people to get scammed.
Yeah, I mean, it is very rare that I will say to the audience of the show, do not buy this thing, right? Like, I'm not one to tell people how to spend their money, right? Like, under normal circumstances, like, if you want to go and buy every cosmetic that comes in the shop and you want to buy every signature, like, you do you, right? I legitimately think for this implementation, it is sending the wrong message to engage with this. And I do not say that lightly. I really do feel like this is the kind of thing where if a lot of people engage with it, it's going to send them the message that this is the way that they should be incorporate or selling these types of features going forward. And I do not think that that is going to be good for the game as a whole, long term. Like, this game has been successful over the years, largely because its economy is fair, especially compared to other card games, both digital and physical, right? Like, I got into Hearthstone originally after saying I can never play another collectible card game again after, getting out of Magic in college because it was too expensive, because it was affordable to get most of the cards and be able to play without spending hundreds of dollars every time that there was a new set. And I could if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. Like, that is the draw of this game. And you look at something like Marvel Snap that has an economy disaster every 3 months, or or even like Magic Arena, like we talked about that. But that game's economy is also not very friendly if you just want to draft or you want to play standard with like a meta deck. That economy is really tough for getting like rares and mythics via wild cards, and there's no way to craft cards, right? So this game's economy is something I feel good paying into on a regular basis. And it is things like this that make me very scared for the future of the game. And I hope that this is an experiment that they will look at and then decide that this is not the way to go.
Yeah, I think I can see, with trends in the gaming industry, I know Microsoft has been doing cuts in their like Xbox gaming divisions. So I could see there maybe being a sort of fear of, we have to show that we're really growing, right? I don't know if that's what happened, but that would make sense. However, goodwill is harder to put a number on, but it does affect your bottom line eventually, right? Like, this doesn't make me feel bad about like getting a normal pre-order or something like that. That I see as an investment into the next 2 years of the game, where these cards will be, or a year and a half, where the cards will be in standard. But something like this, I was looking forward to just a fun theory crafting episode this time, but there was no way that we couldn't talk about this.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I have like one final point, if that's cool, and then we can move on. So recently watched a video by Smarter Every Day. I don't watch him as much as I should, but he talks about the difficulty in, promise this will come back around, difficulty in like trying to manufacture something fully in the United States. Great long video, very interesting. But at the end of it, he sells you on the product, and it's like a $75 grill scrubber. And he explains why it's better, the differences between like it and the competition, and like really pitches you on the product and is honest about why it costs that much. If they said, here is what's different about our pets than the pets in MTGA or the sort of pet skins in TFT or whatever these other things, and said, this is what went into it, these are the challenges we face because it's old code based to implement, whatever, and they said, and that's why it's $50. I think people could be like, all right, that's tough, but okay. But when you, assuming this is even related at all, maybe it wasn't actually that hard. I doubt that. But
I mean, it took them a year, right? So like they did spend a year working on this. They had to push it back a couple times. Like
right.
presumably this, I mean, again, we have a 10-year-old code base. Presumably this was difficult. I will give them the benefit of the doubt that like if they were going to sell something, they want to sell it as soon as possible. So there were probably challenges with putting it together, and it's probably took a while for them to get it right to be able to release it.
Right. And you know, if you are honest, which is like a forbidden thing in business, then people will pay for that, right? And feel okay about it. Or they won't and also feel okay about it because like, okay, that's what it's cost. It's out of my range. What you gonna do? Like, I want to get one of those scrummers because all the reasons he explained are good. That like run of the mill grill scrubbers, you can end up with these barbs that then can get stuck on the grill and end up in your food and are really dangerous. And there's all these reasons why it's like a better product, right? But if you obfuscate all the things, which, you know, a little bit different situation when it's a digital product, but we don't know why it's being valued at this much, well, then we just don't trust you about anything, and it sours goodwill. Like, I love Larian because they have business practices that I support. While Hasbro fired a ton of people after the release of Baldur's Gate 3 game, Larian did not do that because, you know, they're not an American company. And like, they will continue making really, really good games because their people have experience, because, you know, they haven't fired them since, right? Like, they keep gaining more experience through Divinity and Divinity 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 and whatever their new project is. Yeah, unfortunately, our country seems not really to have learned that, and that's how we have planes falling out of the sky and gacha being legal and used and just destroying people.
I won't get into a capitalism, right? I do want to say one thing aside from the monetary cost, which is Wicked and I would both like to renew our plea for a reduced motion accessibility option.
Yes.
It's somewhat easier to deal with when it's the opponent's pet, but it is a lot of movement. So I would also say, like, if you are sensitive to being distracted by a lot of movement on the screen, it's right next to your hand. You're looking at it kind of all the time. That could be a good thing for some people. But if you're distracted by that, then we actually found it like hard to keep it off of our board while we were playing, and we didn't want it there because it was distracting. And, you know, you're still able to see the opponents. Like, there are people, including myself and Wicked, who would benefit from, especially as they add more and more animations into the game, being able to tamp that down. I know it's always easier said than done, but it is an issue for people.
Yeah,
so.
it's constantly wiggling around, and it's right in your line of sight. It's like right out. It's right in your peripheral vision, right? So like the opponent's one is just like up on the opposite corner of the screen, so it's not quite as bad, and you can squelch them to cut down on it doing a lot of its shtick, but just constantly seeing that movement around, and it's big movements too. He's not subtle. Yeah, like we tried to turn it off, and like sometimes it would just come back randomly, and like, okay, I guess he's here now. Like, it was, again, that's something that I would have a much easier time. It's going to be less of an issue because I'm not getting one of these, right? But I mean, if they ever do fix the monetary issue and they kind of renege on that, like, there is going to be this issue that he is very wiggly and it's right in your line of sight. And for someone with attention issues like the two of us, that's a problem that I've been complaining about since they started doing like the mythic hero portraits that they still haven't addressed. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
but on to happier news. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, but that was the bad stuff that happened this week. Let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about the fun decks that we got to play last night.
all right. So we had, as we're recording this, Theorycrafting was yesterday, and Edelweiss was casting on the main Theorycasting channel, I should say, for quite a few hours, and then sort of joined us on voice and was playing her own games after Theorycasting ended. And Wicked and I streamed for 6 hours and played as many decks as we could, which was still not representative of all classes because we played more Priest than was probably advisable. Although Priest does, like, I don't think Priest is going to be a dead class. We'll talk about it.
From your mouth to God's ears. Yeah.
That did leave a little bit less time for some of the other things, but luckily anything that we didn't play, Edel probably did, and also saw while Theorycasting.
We should probably just start with Paladin, because that was the boogeyman. We should probably start there.
Yes. Okay, so, as we talked about last week, Paladin has a Murloc quest. That Murloc quest, you might remember, we know because of the reveal video. In the reveal video, when they had given those cards to Blister Guy to reveal, the quest said every 6 Murlocs. But then on release, is actually every 5 Murlocs. So they did a last-minute buff to it. And that appears to have made it really good. Now again, usual disclaimer. Theorycrafting meta is never real meta. The Theorycrafting meta, for one thing, requires that you have 10 cards in every deck from the new set. And nothing's been figured out yet. So it is frequently true that we have a boogeyman from Theorycrafting that turns out to be fine when the actual set releases. So we don't know what it's going to look like in a settled meta. That said, it looked really, really good. A little scary good. So the Murlocs get, the way that the quest works is every time you summon 5 Murlocs, including like in the middle of a card being summoned, then Murlocs after that summon gain +1/+1, or after the next 5 Murlocs, they get +2/+2, or +3/+3, and so on, forever. And that really, really adds up. And MVP, by far, is Tyrannogil, which is the 6-mana 6/3 rush, Death Rattle, summon 3/2/1 Murlocs, each with a random bonus effect. So he gets you 80% of the way to a tick by himself. And those bonus effects on the Murlocs are actually, the chance of getting at least one that's pretty impactful is more or less guaranteed. And by the time you've gotten Tyrannogil down, you probably have at least 3 2s, right? If not 4 3s or bigger. So we were seeing people as the night went on just tutoring Tyrannogil with Ursine Maul, with Plucky Paintfin, which draws a rush minion, because it is just MVP. You can discount it with Hot Spring Glider on 3 and then play it on 4. There are many gross things that you can do in this deck.
And also you have Braingill to be able to keep your draw up once you're doing that. So you're not going to run out of, like, one of the things we found with a lot of the quests in general, that you do have to make sure to build enough card draw into the deck. Like, it's very easy to go put all the cards that say X into your deck and then call it a day, and then you end up realizing you didn't put enough card draw and you're getting run over. Braingill just keeps that from being a problem, because it just gives all your friendly Murlocs Death Rattle draw a card. So you're going to attack, your opponent's going to want to clear because they would rather not die, and then you get to draw a whole bunch, so you get to reload, and you just keep making boards.
Yeah, I feel like Braingill is this deck's divine favor, right? It's like, well, the games where you don't get it, you might gas out, but the games where you do get it, you are golden.
It's like a divine flounder. Yeah.
Some of the other cards that were really helpful here, the Steamfin Thief, Kindred summon 2/1/1 Murlocs with Rush. That's pretty powerful when they've been buffed, and also it completes a lot of the quest, which, unlike the other quests, like making progress towards the quest is always helpful. And also a point that I think you made on the casting, Edel, was you're not paying for this quest reward. It just happens. And that's a big difference compared to the other quests. But you can also get the Steamfin Thief. You can double its kindred with Primalfin Challenger. So then it's like 5 Murlocs all in one card. Murloc War Leader is very good because the buff does not actually buff minions already in play. So Murloc War Leader is still your 3-mana Savage Roar on your board. That's really hard to clear. That was the thing that made it feel, I think this will make it feel a lot more appealing for people to play and also makes it scarier to face, is that often with aggro decks, like, yeah, your mindset when you see Murlocs is, well, I just keep them off the board and then they'll gas out. But the Murlocs just keep getting bigger.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, if this is good at all, right? If this is viable at all when the set launches for real, this seems like the kind of thing where they would take the health buff off, because that's what really makes it difficult, right? Like the attack buff is what you notice, but the health buff is what makes it harder and harder to clear those things, because like you can't just ping off some of the 1/1s. Like, yeah, Murloc Tidecaller, like you end up having to use like a real spell to kill it, right? Like you can't just ping a Mermy, you can't just ping off a Braingill, you can't ping off the Murloc Tidehunter or the 1/1 that it summons, or all the other 1/1s that are getting summoned from all the other things, because now they're 2 or they're 3 or they're 4, and that gets really hard to deal with. And every time that we've had something like that creates these persistent board buffs that are going board wide that just get reapplied, they end up taking away the health buff because it just makes it too hard to clear.
Yeah, I think that would be sort of the nuclear option. And again, like,
Yeah,
this is all speculation. It's not out yet. Infestor, there were not really, there were hardly any dials they could do. On this, they can say, oh, okay, it takes 6 Murlocs, actually, and not 5, right? Like, they can just make it stack up slower so it doesn't snowball so quickly. A quick note on lists, I feel like you don't actually run Story of Galvadon and Violet Treasuregill in this. Treasuregill is the one that like casts a spell that costs 2 or less from your deck, targets this if possible. That was definitely a like, we have to reach the requisite number of new cards thing, and weren't sure what to do.
Yeah, that was me kind of wanting to try it out. But I could see, we actually are spoiled for choice. If you just go into the library and filter by Murlocs, there are so many Murlocs.
Yeah,
you have lots of options.
And notably, since Dive the Glockodepths, the way it works is it is Murlocs you summon gain. That means something like, and we'll see this come up again with the Shaman quest, that means that when you play the thing, it gets the buff. So Adaptive Amalgam, if you pull that same amalgam again and you play it again, it has all the buff from before, and
sure
then
does.
it gets them again.
Yeah, you can play like one of those with the Murloc that Death Rattle draws a dragon. It's your dragon, so you can tutor it. Can always keep getting it back.
Also, if you play a Braingill with it on board, every time it comes back, it's also going to replace itself when it dies. So,
yeah, because it will keep that Braingill buff. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're actually probably likely to really see it with Amalgam, and then just lots of Murlocs. But again, there's like plenty of good Murlocs to be had. I had City Chief Esho in here. I'm not even sure that's correct, because
I think we saw it played against us too, if I remember correctly.
We were not the only ones trying it out, because everything is a Murloc, right? So you might as well. And Grunty does feel like a good top end of like, if you need to just desperately throw what are going to now be very large minions at the opponent's face, or at a board. So, but we'll see. Maybe just Tyrannogill's enough.
You have to shoot them at minions. You can't throw them at. You can't.
You have to shoot them at minions, but it is a big board.
You can't just chuck them at your opponent's face. That would be unsporting or sportsmanlike. So yeah,
we would have seen it played before now if you could just chuck it at the opponent's face. Yeah,
I mean the games didn't go to 8 is the thing. Like 8, like the games were ending by turn 6. So it's not. I think the reason you might not see Grunty is because you don't need to go that long. Honestly.
Regarding Esho, I could see a world where you swap that for Curator. I have like the really sweet signature Curator, so I would definitely do that swap. Tyrannogill is a beast.
And then Amalgams are also there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think actually, so that was one of the earlier ideas that I had, and then probably should have kept. But so you take out from the list that I have in the show notes, take out the Treasure Guilds, take out Galvadon, take out Esho, add in like an amalgam to Dragon Tamers, a Curator, and something else, like another submerged map maybe. So then, bam. That's probably good enough for day one. Is there even better? Like, quite possibly. We haven't refined it, but like, is that going to be good enough to beat up on people on day one? Probably.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably not enough space for this, but like anything can do, Maul plus Ursoc and Renewing Flame, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, there's no real cost to it, right? Like, you're just gonna get those out anyway. Though, I mean, I guess if you really want to hit, I guess the reason you might not do that is because if you leave those out, then Ursine Maul always draws Tyrannogil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining a world where you do Curator. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Curator's one card, and then this is redundancy for that, right? So, like, you make sure that you're always drawing them. And then, worst comes to worst, then you draw Finja, which, I mean, then you're drawing Finja, so everything's good because Finja's the best.
Yeah, even though Finja has some anti-synergy with all the battle cries, I decided, you know what? It's fine. It's worth it. It's fine. You don't get the battle cry value. You still got like a free Murloc. And it advanced your quest, and it has a million stats. And like, it's okay.
Well, and like, if by the time you're playing it, it's already buffed, once or twice. And then it pulls two. Yeah, it's absolutely great.
Yeah. And summons 2, which is like 2 fits the quest. Like, it's just.
I did see some people running like the Rush Murloc, right? Just 2 mana, 3/1 Rush, and like maybe that goes in. That's certainly a high roll off Finja.
Yeah, that could be. And if you're running the Plucky Paint Fins, but you also have other tutors for the Tyrannogils, then maybe you want to have other Rush minions that you can get from Plucky Paint Fin. Like, it's not a completely solved deck, but it does seem like it's easier to get a good version than some of the other things. We had also played, I made a very we didn't even put it in this list because you don't want it, listener. You don't want the Quest Druid that I made, which is not necessarily a knock against Quest Druid, because
Quest Druid didn't seem particularly good when other people were playing against us either, to be fair.
Yeah.
It has draws. I think it is going to be built very, very differently.
It was harder. I think it's harder to figure out how to build that correctly than we were seeing, because like, you clearly don't want to be trying to fill up 7 empty board spaces with that deck. Like, you need to be having things that are taking up board space in order to get that quest to finish quicker. And that means locations, maybe that means dormant minions, maybe that I don't know what it means, but
I think it means locations and starships, right? Like, we already saw this with the Cosmic Phenomenon decks, and I think it just sort of like pushes those Cosmic Phenomenon decks like even further, having access to this quest. And since you kind of end up taking up a couple of board slots with, location and like dead starship piece, then it's just like way, way easier to fill your board. And it's okay if you don't have quite as many things getting buffed if the 5 things you are buffing are huge.
Yeah. This doesn't mean run like Cruise Director Laura or whatever the hell her name is. Don't do that.
No.
we got plenty of other locations. It would be kind of cool to see the arcane stuff from that set, seeing some play. But yeah, I can definitely say I tried to make a treant version of it. We didn't draw the draw that was in there, but also there wasn't enough of it, and it wasn't a good build that I had made there. We could talk. So we saw quite a few hunters. Mostly we saw, and what we had played was non-quest Carnassa hunters. I don't know, Edel, whether you saw quest hunters. I feel like we ran into one, like Ron Mexico maybe, playing the quest hunter.
It sounds like something he would have done.
Yeah, I mean, we observed a couple of quest hunters, but mostly I think people were excited about Neri and Story of Carnassa, which, turns out that effect when you don't actually have to do a bunch of playing 1-cost minions to get them, pretty good. So the issue, I think, with the quest shock, right, the reward is like, it's powerful. It like is sort of fine as a a top end on like a aggro-y, mid-rangey, just like beast hunter. Yeah, I'm sure CDC has some kind of cook in that regard. Maybe it'll get better without the theory crafting requirement and stuff. But yeah, the one that I think has people excited is this story of Carnassa Neri deck, where it's like you've got these raptors that you shuffle in, and you can bird watching them. So bird watching is insane when you're hitting like 10 or 20 minions and getting that buff on all of them rather than just 2.
And also that it's buffing the ones that are on board at the same time. Like that's also not insane. That's like a little savage roar if you have enough of those on board also.
Right. And it's funny that like the deck, you look at it and it's like, there's not that many beasts here, but we're running Supreme Dinomancy, and it's like, yeah, because raptors and alien encounters, you can often, it's got the discover stuff, right? So you can do the same Rangari Scout for alien encounters, and if they don't clear it, you just Supreme Dinomancy for like a pretty big board buff.
Yeah, and Patchwork Pals too. Like you could just make your huff for that much bigger. Like there's other uses too, but yeah, it's just like those things get really big really fast. And it was kind of surprising like how big they got, and then there's just a million of them. It really does feel like Jurassic Park. Like where all of a sudden you're just being overrun by the raptors.
We probably should have been running parent sanctuaries because we saw someone do that to us and we're like, oh yeah, it makes them 0. 3 of them 0.
What's better than a 7/5 raptor? A free 7/5 raptor, turns out.
That draws you a card.
Yes.
Also.
And then you've got Grifta and Mixologist, and I don't see this in your list, but you could also run the 2-mana 1/3 Murloc that gives you a rock. And so you have all these 1-cost spells that you can potentially deal damage with, and they get doubled by Neri. So you can, double 6 damage from Grifta is, of course, the nuts, especially if you get extra ones from Rangari Scout or something. There's going to be a like, oh, look, Discover Hunter is back sort of build here that's very focused on getting a bunch of 1-cost spells that deal damage and then OTKing with Neri. I'm sure the balance will be tricky to like do that alongside, maybe this Carnassa stuff, maybe other things, but was certainly seeing a lot of people messing around with that sort of line of thinking.
I will definitely be curious to see how this one develops, and I imagine it's something that you will probably see on day 1, because I don't know, it's fun to have the story of what Carnassa should have been, perhaps. And with the Discover package and Neri, I'm sure Neri will see play, if not this deck, with spells. She's not obviously like a persistent effect, like you have to time when you're putting her out how much value you want to get out of her, but it is a powerful effect.
Yeah, I'm bummed that the diamond is so rare on that pull thing, because I'm assuming that they're just not going to offer any of those things in the shop, but I won't bring it up again. But yeah,
I guess it depends on what the reception's going to be, right? Yeah. Like, who knows?
Anyway. So there definitely seems to be interesting things going on for Hunter. I had made a quest Demon Hunter. Again, all of these things, like, they're not necessarily... In fact, I can say we can be pretty sure that almost none of this is, if any, is going to be fully optimized. But we did make some changes to some of them as we played.
Even if they are, right? These are not the list you're going to be playing on day 1, because like we also had to worry about getting 10 cards from the new set in. So like there were things like I wanted to build. Old talked last week about doing a quest spell mage, right? And I looked, and there were only 9 spells from the new set, so I couldn't get 10 spells and then also play the you have no minions in your deck stuff. So like there's other things that might be better than what we're doing, or like there are going to be things that are going to be teched in because of whatever the meta looks like. There's going to be some cards that you would put in that you had what we tend to call load bearing cards, which are like the 9th and 10th cards from the set that you would never put in a deck on day 1, but you have to put in because you need to get 10 cards in from the new set. So there's a lot of reasons that we're gonna have the links to these lists in the show notes. You could run them on day one. You probably want to look at them and tweak them before you start playing them as is.
And we will, as we always do, a sheet of decks that we find in the first few days of the expansion. We'll tell you more about that next week. But that will have day one decks. But so that you can see what we're talking about, the links to these decks will be in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, I will say the quest Demon Hunter felt pretty good. It was pretty fast when facing another, especially it was pretty fast when facing a board-based deck, which was mostly what we ran into, to get the quest done, even though it's 15. And then even with just like one AoE. And then the rest of it was, Infestation is 4 ticks to the quest by itself because it gives you two stingers that each deal 2 damage and summon a 2/1 grub with Rush. So Nightshade Tea is 3. I was running the Priest Pain package for Nightshade Tea and for Hot Coals, which is really good. Because then Hot Coals also post-quest does 4 or 5 damage to the opponent's board and also their face. That goes in chunks so it can get through Divine Shields. We added in Incendious because usually that dies after buffing your eruptions to 2 damage. And if it doesn't, oh no, my eruptions are 3 damage, or my eruptions are 4 damage anyway now. How terrible. And also I still have my 2 attack Incendious alive if this happened. So we can definitely live with that. And I was running Wyvern Slumber because it's flexible. On the one hand, we know that summoning 2 Dormant Dread Seeds is good. We have been seeing that in Demon Hunter since it came out. But also, you can deal 2 damage to all minions with it if you need to.
Yeah.
And we're also running Defiled Spear because that is 2 ticks when you hit with it, because it does 2 damage to probably your opponent's face, then 2 damage to a minion. Though you do have to be careful not to play this deck on autopilot, because it is very easy to accidentally buff your attack beyond 2, especially when you have that weapon specifically. Or like you have like the 1 attack weapon and then you play a Chaos Strike and now you're 3 and you should have just hero powered, right? Like there are some lines where you're going to miss out on damage because you're playing on autopilot the way that you would normally play a Demon Hunter, and you actually have to be paying attention to the numbers when you're playing this. But like, yeah, like sometimes you just like, okay, please play a board. I'm just gonna Hot Coals, or I'm just gonna Wyvern Slumber, and I'm just gonna get half my quest done right now, and I don't even care if I clear anything. Well, probably you clear if you clear something if they're that big, but you don't care if you clear everything.
Quick shout out to the Emoticon Emperor who sent me a list to take a look at and sort of turned me on to, you can run Tusk Piercer and just hero power to make it 2, and then Tusk Piercer draws you Nomelia, whose Death Rattle is a 2 damage AoE. And I mean, I think if you're hitting Nomelia with that consistency, it may well be worth running the discover a Death Rattle that died this game, just for like, because then that does a 2 damage AoE when you cast it and then gives you another Nomelia. So especially if we're seeing more board stuff, right, that just means that this deck can complete its quest that much faster. I feel like this could be one of the decks where like it did not have a strong showing in the theory crafting, but I could see it being like quite powerful day one.
Yeah, I could even see like a slower version of this, that type of build that would also run the 7 drop Death Rattle that gets you 2 of a Death Rattle minion 5 or greater. So then you get 2 Nomelias back and you get to do that, and then those come back, they immediately attack, they get to do their 2 damage across the board. That also goes face. That could end up being quite a bit of damage after if that's left unchecked.
Yeah, Emoticon Emperor's list did in fact have those. I thought they're probably too greedy, but we'll have to just sort of see where the meta's at. Like if there are a ton of quest warriors, maybe we do need to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Nomelia can clear some Murloc boards. You get her back, she clears some more Murloc boards. While you have a lot of things that can also go face and kill them kind of over the top. Yeah, I am optimistic about this one, even though it was hardly the terror of the Theorycrafting compared to, say, the Murloc Paladin. But I think it's a little bit trickier to build. We also played a JT Snow special that was basically just Califero Druid, where we shoved in 10 more cards. We did win that game because we got a good cliff dive. We got 2 good cliff dives. But it was mostly not focused on the new cards. Although Infestation did seem like that's a card that you can run outside the quest. Like, that's just a solid card to control boards. And Fumigate, the deal 3 damage to a minion and all others of the same minion type, could be pretty powerful. Now, the Murlocs can get out of their health, can get out of that range later in the game, but definitely if you're facing like an elemental deck or something like that, that can just, or it's earlier in the Murloc game, that can just clear a board. We did not play the Entomologist Toru. So we did see one played against us. There was one opponent.
And then they died. Yeah.
Yeah. We faced them a couple times in a short succession, and we just did not understand what they were doing at any point in any of the games that we faced them. So it was not a name that I recognized.
Yeah, I know Clark was trying to do a presumably cliff dive Entomologist Toru deck with, Inquisitor plus Bryspawn. So it's just like,
Sure.
You're doing the high damage
All the
cliff dive
greatest hits.
things. Yeah, you're doing the high damage cliff dive things, and then if they're still not dead, you can Toru to, play all the jars and Immolation Aura and win immediately. He did not win that game, though.
That seems like a long shot. What was less of a long shot? Well, should we save Priest for last?
I mean, I guess, probably, yeah.
I had such a perfect transition. What's less of a long shot is Wilted Shadow, but
later.
We'll come back. But later. Also, a lot of burn, though, was the elementals for Shaman. The Slag Claw. Like, those Sizzling Cinders, which is the 1-mana 2/1 Death Rattle, deal 2 damage randomly split among all enemies. They summon a lot of them, and then you kill them and you still take damage. Like, very Leper Gnome-like. And then, of course, Slag Claw can be a big hit. We played an Edelweiss elemental deck that she gave us that was just curving out some elementals, and then we had the fire spells that you can give fire spell damage to, like Lava Flow, deal 2 damage to the lowest health enemy 3 times, overload 1 for 3 mana. That's like that's a card. Even when you haven't given it spell damage, that's a card, and when you have given it spell damage, that's really a card.
Yeah. 3 mana deal 12. Pretty good.
And also going to be cast out of Fyrakk, by the way. Good to keep in mind.
That's true. There's sort of a nice situation where you got like, okay, Living Flame can draw things, and Volcanic Thresher can draw things, and if you have drawn all your fire spells, well, just play Insidious, and those are fire spells, and now you can guaranteed draw those with your, Living Flame or Thrasher. I went a little too deep on another idea, which was to use Shutterblock with Umbra to repeat the Sizzling Cinder Death Rattle 30 times. And I think going all in on that as like, that is the way the deck wins it's too difficult. But I could see a world where you take this elemental deck and you just like remove the Cinder Fins or something, right? Like, you wouldn't even necessarily have to. It's like 1 Death Rattle that is added in. But yeah, where you just like throw in Umbra and Shutterblock, and like sometimes you just get to do that, right? And other times you, oh no, Shutterblock, Insidious, or Slag Claw, or Ultraviolet Breaker. Like there's reasonable hits. So,
but I mean, if you want to play Shutterblock, you really ought to just be playing the quest in Shaman, because that seemed gross.
Maybe. Yeah.
We didn't play that deck, but we played against it a few times, and Yeah, when you get to adapt 6 times, or even there was one person who wasn't even shutter blocking. Maybe they had shutter block also, but they also had a youthful brewmaster. So they just bounced the quest reward and then replayed it. And it makes it pretty likely you're going to hit Divine Shield and Wind Fury.
Or
And
Divine Shield
also,
and Taunt.
Or Divine Shield or Wind Fury and Stealth.
And Wind Fury or Stealth, or just like big stats. And all of a sudden everything is ginormous and also takes forever because that animation is glacially slow. And so it's committing psychic damage by just making you watch all the adapt animations first of all, but you just have like a lot of little minions in that deck that just get swole and all have Wind Fury, and you have to clear all of them or you just die. I don't know if that's going to be good enough on day one. It sure did seem fine in Theorycrafting. I'll say that much.
Yeah, and it seems like it wasn't that hard for them to get the menagerie payoffs down.
It was almost always by like turn 6, pretty consistently every time we saw it.
It's just like we could not figure out exactly how it works, but basically it will do the best thing for you every time when it comes to minions with multiple types. And as was the case with other menagerie things, like every time you play an all minion, it will count towards the quest. So yeah, you run the adaptive amalgams, which also again, like this doesn't matter for some of the adapt rolls, but like any +3 attack or +1/+1 or +3 health, like that will occur every time you play the amalgam, and so it will get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, there was a lot that you can do, and if you as the shaman are worried about dying, you have a good chance to hit taunt, and then they just hack every single minion you ever play, and you have lots of little cheap things that are no longer so little. So yeah, I hadn't really quite thought about shutter blocking it, but it turns out that's pretty good. We had kind of an epic quest warrior versus a quest shaman game. Where it took them a while actually to get their shutter block to draw it, I think, which was the only reason that we even really had a chance in the game. But it was really hard to, I think they had given theirs like taunt and elusive, and it was just like, and divine shield. So it was just like impossible to finish the game. And Wind Fury. So we had to clear everything. We couldn't quite kill them.
It didn't help that I forgot to put Brawl in the deck. That didn't help. Because I think if I had access to Brawl, that might have made things a little bit easier. But I got distracted by all the things that let you spend armor to do damage.
I mean, it gives me appreciation for deck builders because I do most of my deck building for Theorycrafting every 4 months. And it is so easy to get hyper-focused on doing the thing for your deck that you forget that you also just need like good cards or draw or clears or stuff like that. But Shaman does seem like it has a powerful set going on, and Shaman hasn't had that much going on for it right now. There are a few decks, so I especially like the elemental direction, but I think we'll be seeing more of the quest Shaman.
Yeah.
But speaking of warrior, I guess since we just mentioned that, there was a lot of quest warrior at the beginning of the stream. I actually missed the beginning, but I came in and all the casters were like, yeah, it was just like all warrior. So I assume that's...
Yeah, Raven had to make a concerted effort to like find not warrior games.
I think also, I don't know how much of that is a referendum on the deck as much as it is the fact, like, we went off of it after one game too, because that one game took a half an hour. And like, you want to get to play other things than just that one deck. If after you play that game and that team takes a half an hour, you're like, okay, I'm good. Like, let's play something else.
But we did have fun in that half an hour game, even though they shutter blocked their quest reward. The quest rewards for, so the quest for the warrior, if you've forgotten, is you just need to survive 10 turns, and then you get Latorvius, Gaze of the City, who shuffles in all of the other, like all of the old Ungoro quest rewards, basically. So
was that
you
game against the shaman? I thought that was against the priest because they puppet theatered our.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, they puppet theatered our quest reward, and then they had all the quest rewards in their deck also. Yeah,
you were. It was an old school warrior versus priest. Yes.
Yeah.
you're right. The Galvadon one was a different game. So it is actually pretty fun to plan around. Like you've drawn a lot of your deck. Now you're trying to figure out which is the best quest reward to play when are you going to get your time warp off? You know, we had put Edel and I were giving Wicked a hard time for having put kill Jaden into this because you don't need it, because you have Story of Carnassa in the unlikely event that you really need it.
It was I needed it because it cost 7, and I forgot Marin also cost 7. That's why I put it in the deck.
Listen, I made that quest Druid, so like I cannot actually throw any shade.
If we were going to spend another half an hour playing a second game, I would have taken out the Kill Jaden and put in a Marin. Okay, I would have. I promise you.
So if you're looking at this deck, take out the Kill Jaden and put in a Marin, and also put Brawls in somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, the Wind Peak Worms were better than I expected, but they're also like 8. So maybe instead of those.
And those were also kind of load bearing cards. So I think we could probably get away without playing those. And I mean, they do go face, which is relevant, but generally the way you're winning is by sticking a Galvadon and then following it up with Time Warp, because you just make something that's like, 15 or 20 attack with Wind Fury, and then you Time Warp so that you can attack with it immediately.
Or you just kill them with your Tortola plus Shellnado.
Yeah, that actually seemed pretty good, because Shellnado does 5 damage one at a time to the board. So it's not quite as good as Corpse Explosioning with a Tortola on your side of the board, but it's about as good as you're going to be able to get without access to Corpse Explosion. And
you are not going to accidentally kill your Tortola because you have too many corpses.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I was actually surprised like how challenging it was to like make Elise playable. Like it was kind of tricky to fit into techs, and it shows you just how frequently there are gaps in the curve. Whether or not she stays in, I don't know. I still think the deck she's going to be most prevalent in is like Aulonius Druid, but I definitely am going to have fun with this. But as you say, it's not going to be a thing I do too many games with on day one, because I'm sure I will both see a lot of it and the games will take a while. But I love the interactions of like, okay, we Crystal Core, and now our Lakari portal summons 2 5/5 demons at the end of every turn. Our Carnassa's Broods are, 1 mana 5/5 draw a card. Like it's there's a lot of interesting synergies between the cards, and yeah, that big finisher of Galvadon plus Time Warp. I guess that doesn't work if you've played Crystal Core. I don't know how that works.
Well, it summons it as a 5/5 and then it buffs it after the fact.
And that's okay?
Should be fine. I think that should be fine.
I wasn't sure if Crystal Core is just like, your stuff is 5/5 forever and like cannot be otherwise.
It just says for the rest of the game your minions are 5/5.
Yeah, I don't know how that works,
which could go either way.
Yeah. Because I don't remember if you were able to like buff or shrink. Like if you were to set the minion's stats to something else, it would go back to being a 5/5. I don't know what would happen if you just buffed it. I don't remember. And I didn't play that deck because I hated that deck. So
yeah, in this game we just didn't draw the Crystal Core. Yeah. So that might be a thing to have to keep in
even
mind
if we did,
I
was so concerned with the hydration station value that I might not have played it, to be honest. Like I wanted my Tortolas to have 30 health, and I wasn't going to play it until they'd all died. I think was also part of it.
That was also part of it. And it could be like, if you have played the Crystal Core, like, and you've played the Lakari Sacrifice, which turns out it's good when you don't have a terrible quest attached to it, to just have those imps. And it was pretty MVP for us against the Priest, because it kept soaking their quest rewards 10 damage.
Yep.
That was extremely important. But and we did ultimately win that game with the Galvadon plus Time Warp. But you could also like Time Warp with a bunch of 5/5 Lakari imps.
Yeah.
And just kind of do it like Zaremi Priest.
I mean, just having access to a Time Warp to set up a board and be able to do something with it is very powerful. I mean, that's kind of obvious to get extra turns are powerful, but you are going to guarantee getting access to an extra turn at some point in that game, which is a big deal.
Well,
so
if you can draw it.
If you can draw it. You do have New Heights, so you have all the mana in the world.
Listen, I believe.
This is why you need your hydration stations and to survive. But yeah, we also played, and I know Enzo's has already made changes to this since we put this up. We did play a sort of Enraged Warrior from Enzo. This was the Warrior versus Galvadon Shaman game that I remember.
Yes,
actually.
Yeah, that was. I think we won that game anyway, but it was a lot. It took us a lot longer than we would have liked, if I remember correctly. Or maybe they did. Maybe they beat us because they took a while to get their thing down and we couldn't close the game out. Maybe that was what it was.
That's the one.
Yeah, that the second one. We had a good start, but it does seem like they're he was saying maybe we just go like really aggressive aggro and try to like chem spell out the Briarspawn Drake, and then also just like Frothing Berserker was good in this deck.
Imagine.
I love a Frothing Berserker deck. It's really, everything I like in an aggressive warrior.
Yeah.
And Nablaya the Watcher did seem like she could be powerful. And I'm sure Enzo will be working hard on figuring out how to make this viable. If he possibly can, if anyone can, he will figure it out. And there were lots of ways to deal damage to the board. Like, it was not hard to get the minions damaged.
Oh yeah, there were all kinds of whirlwind effects in that deck. Like we had no shortage of whirlwinds. That was not an issue. The issue was just that we had like a 13 or 15 attack Frothing Berserker on turn 4. It's just that needed to connect twice and it only got to connect once. That was the problem.
I do miss Corcoran Elite. It's tough.
Yeah, I miss my old buddy Anima Extractor. Such a fun card. Anyway, let's see. We played a quest Warlock. I think we only played one game with it, but it seemed strong. This was from Stick-A-Wish, who made the deck. And it was not hard to complete that quest. This is the temporary quest that then gives you the Underfell Rift that you throw things in. And the tech is you play Mass Production, which is, if you don't remember what this card does, it's a Whizbang card that draws 2 cards, deal 3 damage to your hero, shuffle 2 copies of this into your deck. So you will never run out of things to feed into the Rift. Then you also just have lots of little temporary things. Like, if anything, our biggest problem was that we got our board full of small things, and because of what we were facing, we couldn't like trade them off to get bigger stuff to just close out the game.
The 3/5 Taunt Reborn was kind of taking up valuable real estate and the Rift does take up a board spot too. So like if you get too many of those 3/5 Taunt Reborns, those are kind of low rolls because they're hard to get rid of, and then you can't get something else that's going to be able to actually do some damage.
But if you need to survive, then
it looks like you're guaranteed to not get 2 of the same thing every time. So odds are every time you will get either a charge or a rush. And I mean, that's pretty insane. And the rush is a 5/3 lifesteal. So like it's just really hard to kill these decks sometimes when they get going, because they're gaining 5 life and removing something every turn, if you have stuff in play, which usually
they may not be netting 5 life because they're probably using that to spend on Mass Production to put more stuff in their deck and draw more stuff out to be able to put stuff in the Rift. But
but the fact that
it doesn't matter.
You get to keep playing Mass Production because you keep getting your life back,
it's letting them keep doing it without worry that they're eventually going to run out of life, right? Like that's the big thing.
I want to point out how many 1-drops are in here. So the deck is literally 2/3 1-drops or 0 cost, like 1 or less. So you can just play everything. But the Mass Productions means you don't run out of draw. This version of the deck we were running, Hearthstone, restore all damage your hero has taken this turn, so that you can like make a bunch of Mass Productions all at once and then Hearthstone your way up, and then you're good after that. Tunnel Terror, that curve of like Death Rattle, get 2 random temporary 2-cost minions, and then you have 2 for the next turn if it gets cleared. And then our top end is 4 mana Razadir, which it's a 4 mana 7/7.
And it
Yeah.
also tilts your opponent in the process. So, you know.
Yep. Solarium, when your entire deck costs 1 or less, it turns out not that risky because your entire deck costs 1 or less. Pretty much. So that completed our quest very quickly.
Yeah.
And actually,
Seems sweet.
Dreambound Raptor, I think it was mostly in there to be a beast for Razadir, but it was like, it did some work in the game that we had.
Yeah.
Because you're summoning a lot of little dudes and giving them all a bonus effect was not bad.
I do imagine I would be adding like Jug,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably.
because the things from the portal I believe are like demon beasts. So even when it comes to those, the fact that you can Jug and buff up the charge minion or whatever, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, you don't actually need a ton of different types, right? Like just demon beast is good enough.
Yeah.
If you're pretty much guaranteed to have a demon and a beast. So yeah. Mage. So Discover Quest Mage was very popular because it's fun. Wicked is not a big fan of facing it. No one is shocked.
I like playing it. Playing it was fine.
And Edel told us the real inside tech, which is Dark Gift minions for after you complete the quest, just makes big boards with good effects. Yep.
I mean, I think my biggest problem with this is that we'd been playing for like 5 hours by the time we got around to this, and I needed to wrap my head around after we completed the quest that I need to pick the thing off the Discover that I didn't want to get the other 2 things to happen. And I forgot that all the time. So that's something, I guess that's my pro tip for you if you're going to play Quest Mage is remember once you finish the quest that you need to discover the thing you don't want, which is harder to remember than you might think.
We have years and years of experience the other way. Unless it's like, oh, I want the battle cry of this Dark Gift minion or something.
Right.
Then, or I want to be able to target this thing. Then pick that.
Or the Dark Gift is going to put it on top of your deck instead of playing it. Like sometimes that's a reason to skip that one. Right.
Well, right. You basically never want to pick the Dark Gift that goes on top of your deck, because then it goes on top of your deck instead of going into play with +4/+5. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, if you don't pick it, it will be played with the buff. It will not go on top of your deck unless you pick it, and then it will be on top of your deck.
Yeah. And this one, like, yeah, the games where you get tide pools or like Pocket Dimension on curve just let you complete the quest very, very quickly. Pocket Dimension, it counts every single instance. So if you manage to go like 4 discovers without seeing a duplicate, then that's the quest halfway done. Or perhaps the second halfway done because you're on turn 4. So yeah, and then of course Treacherous Tormentor, right, doing the legendaries. I'm not sure like what's going to end up being the things you use for payoff. I'm actually not sure I even really love Relic of Kings in that spot. Like, it's funny and good when you get to cast Story of Amara, but I did also have a time where I got Quasar and Wheel, which was not great. So I could see a world where like you cut Relic of Kings for Malorn, because even without imbues, you just Malorn 2 things into play and like pick the one that you're willing to pay for. That can be quite good.
Yeah. It's also worth mentioning, just if you're thinking about running this in the pre-release brawl, Pocket Dimension may underperform there because the pool is going to be considerably smaller. It's probably still fine, right? You're probably still going to get like 2 discovers out of it, but I would not expect this to just like solo the quest.
Yeah.
Like it might sometimes do in like a full standard.
Yeah.
That is a good
and
point.
Of course, we were not able to try the all spells version, or I guess no minions rather, right? You can still run like Artanis or whatever. But I do imagine that could be a powerful version as well, where you're just like doing the all spells payoff thing. And because that one, I mean, for having no spells, there's the 4-cost one where you get 2 3-drops. And if you've completed the quest, you will get 6 3-drops. And of course, that draw spell that is, Skull of Gul'dan is Pretty good.
Plus, we need malfunction to kill a lot of Murlocs early, so
Yep.
that's also a relevant thing.
I had also made a sort of elemental mage with Inferno Herald and Windswept Page Turner. I hadn't quite realized how well Windswept Page Turner does with Blob of Tar. So Windswept Page Turner is a 4-mana 4/3 elemental. After you summon an elemental, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So if your Blob of Tar dies, it summons 2 elementals, and they have to kill that before they can get to your Windswept Page Turner. So it does 6 damage to random enemies. So that's pretty good.
Stormbrewer was also really good in that deck. That's the 5-mana 3/6 neutral. Whenever this attacks, deal 3 damage to the target first with Kindred Gain Rush. First of all, when that goes face, that does 6, which is a lot of damage. But also, like, sometimes you just clear off a poison minion without taking any damage, and then you still have your minion behind. Or you get to trade into things and not actually take any damage on this, and it's got a fairly big butt. That card felt way better than I would have expected. I mean, I guess maybe not better than expected, but certainly I was surprised by how good it performed.
I only put it in because I had to, and then I was like, actually, this is pretty good.
I'm imagining a world where, like, some form of this mage ends up feeling a little bit like the mech decks with Mecha Shark, right? Where it's like you've got, like, the elemental plan, like, you had the mech plan, and then sometimes you Mecha Shark, and in this deck, sometimes you Windswept, because you can now set up these, like, sort of chains of value where, like, you're willing to play Blasteroid because we've got a lot of ways of targeted drawing fire spells or just drawing a lot of stuff in general, and then cheap fire spells are really good with Inferno Herald because you get random elementals and reduce their cost, and any of those that you hold on to are cheap elementals that you can play with Windswept Page Turner. It's just like this weird sort of, like, chaining of synergies.
Yeah, the biggest problem we had was actually hand space. So
yeah, we might not need the burn down in that deck. Like, we can probably clear that out and just, or even like the Supernova. I don't know if we'd ever have enough hand space to be able to play it profitably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might have been a little greedy. I will be experimenting with that also. It was definitely fun to play. I think, again, we'll probably be seeing more of the quest on day 1 of the expansion, but I think the elemental angle has some promise as well. We did not put on here, I guess, so we have Rogue, DK, and Priest.
Yeah, we didn't play any Death Knight. Edel, you did. Do you have anything you want to say about
it's
Death
cool.
Knight?
It needs to run fewer new cards.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be good. Like, Death Knight's already good, and now you can just, like, you can't do triple blood to run the quest. So, okay. I think there will be an initial, like, okay, how many slots can we dedicate to getting copies of the dinosaur, the quest reward, right? And I think it's a matter of, like, you've already got Orbital, and if you are able to hold on to Orbital long enough to give it Reborn, then you can get a lot of copies of the dinosaur and location. But then, is it worth running the scrapbook 5/5 that summons a copy of a location, and you just have constant of this location that deals 4 damage, and then you're summoning the dinosaurs again? Is that better than Starships? No, probably not, but that sounds like fun, so I'm going to try out Bloodborne Unholy deck. Yeah, exactly. That you don't run any of the Starships. I mean, you could even make it sort of more aggressive and run, like, Foam Render, right? There's, like, a few of the new cards are very good at either corpse generation or corpse spending. There's the 3-mana 1/1 Death Rattle Reborn, summon a 2/2 taunt, and then there's the 5-cost 4/3 Rush Lifesteal that costs, like, you have to pay corpses instead of mana. And so that is perfect when you can use it to complete the quest, because then you haven't spent any mana, and so you can play it right away.
Did you see anyone doing any, like, Heron or Frost things?
I did, actually. Smarms. I don't know if she made the deck herself or got it from a listener or something, but it looked really solid. She had the 1/3 that whenever a Reborn minion dies, like is resummoned, you summon a copy, and with the dog, the rush dog that
Rambunctious
gives
stuffy.
yeah,
Yeah.
rambunctious stuffy, and then the death rattle stuff, the stegodons that do 6 damage to 3 targets or something, like that's just a lot. And the new kindred frost spells and thing, it seemed like a solid, like, aggressive burn strategy.
Listener Alteris had made us one of those, and we didn't quite get there to playing it, but it looks quite fun. And that's definitely more my speed of Death Knight.
Yeah.
So
That's not what I'm looking for in a Death Knight. So
yes. By the time I proposed it, Wicked was getting tired, and he was also like, well, we're also not playing a slow Death Knight because that'll just be the rest of the night.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which was probably accurate. Rogue, so people were mostly playing Quest Rogue, right? We played a Quest Rogue that Hat had made. I'm pretty sure not every choice in here was really meant to be optimal, so much as, isn't this cool? So we actually had Elise in here, recursive twin Ziliax. Recursive, if you don't remember, gives your Ziliax death rattle, shuffle this into your deck. But we actually don't really want to be drawing the Ziliaxes out. We want to be drawing...
I just want turtles, yeah.
Turtles and asteroids and eruptions. So it seemed like a lot of people were doing basically Cycle Rogue, but we got turtles, and we're shuffling a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
into our deck.
and the cast when drawn stuff helps the Cycle Rogue game plan out anyway, because then it's just drawing you more cards, it's just going to make your giants less. So I would imagine that, like, there are cards in here that are here because we needed 10 new cards, and if you're going to do Cycle Rogue in Standard, you probably cut some of those, and then you just put in the good shuffle ones and just do Cycle Rogue things, and you're probably fine. I actually, this is one of the first Rogue decks that I didn't hate playing, to be honest, which is a credit to Hat, I suppose. I imagine if it just becomes Cycle Rogue, I'll probably enjoy it less, but I didn't hate playing this when we were playing it. It did feel kind of fun, and like the quest reward does a lot of work once it comes down.
Yeah, I mean it's 1 mana, draw 2.
Draw 2 that probably summon minions or throw asteroids at your opponent's face.
Right, and I really imagine that this is going to get rebuilt to lose Merchant of Legend, which is the discover a legendary, shuffle the other 2 into the deck. Like, that can just give you a lot of garbage. And
yeah, it was fun, but it didn't seem super great.
Yeah, like, you're gonna be completing the quest with Moonstone Mauler. It's what's gonna happen. You're gonna be stepping that. You're gonna be Web of Deceptioning that. But then you'll have other things that you want to draw with the hero power that give you maybe a little bit more staying power than just like the burn plan. Yeah. So
you might still run interrogation. You probably, I mean, the turtles were fine.
Yeah, absolutely. If we still run interrogation,
you want the turtles for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I think Merchant of Legend just adds too much junk. Obviously, some people are going to do agency espionage.
Sure.
Because they're going to. I personally like Marin, right? Like, I think that's a nice sort of backup thing where you can be like, I kind of have junk left. Let's, get a handful of legendaries, or let's just play. I'm blanking the one that summons 2 legendaries. That one.
Oh, Zarek's Crown. Yeah.
Yeah, Crown. So
I will say, Apu felt pretty good when we played him.
Just
it draws cards.
Fan.
Combo, Death Rattle, cast Fan of Knives. Yep.
Seems good.
So, and all the normal rogue things: Dubious Purchase, Metal Detector.
It's a rogue deck it's a rogue legendary that's hard to actually break, so that's fine. I'm a fan. Like,
I'm a little surprised that they made Underbrush Tracker 7, like, to start with. I feel like so many of these start at like 6 cost or something, right? And then go to 7. Like, there was the 4/4 that got reduced every time you played a card that turn. 4/4 Rush for 6, and they eventually nerfed it to 7. This is just starting at 7 for an effect that's harder to do, right? 7 mana 5/5 Rush costs 1 less for each time you've shuffled cards into your deck. Not for each card you've shuffled, each time you've shuffled.
They actually, like, They actually were responsible. I'm impressed. Because normally they're not, like, responsibility is not known for rogue cards, but this was actually, like, responsible how they did it.
Like, you end up playing it for 3 or 4 mana a lot just because you need the rush.
Which is fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
still.
I mean, it's still a 4-mana 5/5 rush. That's not nothing.
Yeah, but we're not supposed to pay for our cards.
Good. Yeah, you know, tariffs are in place, you know. Sometimes you have to pay a little more for things now.
All right. Well,
Anyhow,
so
speaking of making people pay, let's talk about Priest.
let's talk about Priest. I'll get this one out of the way. I made a Menagerie Priest. It was good, I think. I don't know if Gladesong Siren is the way to go or not. I think it is the way to go in Quest Priest for sure.
Yeah.
Gladesong Siren is the 6 mana 4/7 Naga. Lifesteal costs 1 if you've played a Holy and Shadow spell this turn. Like, that can be really powerful. I'm not sure it'll be consistent enough in Menagerie Priest specifically, but it is a Naga.
Yeah, it was actually pretty hard in both decks to get active. Maybe that was just a function of how little draw we had in both decks, but it felt like it was not a real huge discount by the time that we got it down. And it doesn't immediately affect the board, right? So, like, it's not saving you like, say, a Light Shower Elemental would. I mean, again,
We definitely
it's
saw people getting it down turn 3.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, watching the Theorycraft stream. So Wicked had it in his head that it had taunt and then was complaining about how it didn't have taunt. But I had seen like 3 games in a row right before coming on where people had just soloed with Gladesong Sirens. So we had different perspectives on the cards. There is, Menagerie Priest is a deck that's strong right now. There's strong stuff in for it. Resuscitate in like every priest ever is just a really
very good,
super good card, it seems. And Tertullan Storyteller, at the end of your turn, give +1/+1 to each friendly minion of a different type, was often just hitting our entire board.
I mean, it's a cheaper mug, right? I mean, that's basically what it is. It's a cheaper mug. It doesn't let you go face with it right away, but it does buff the whole board at the end of turn.
And it can do it more than once. Yeah.
And it's great to resuscitate, right?
Yeah.
Resuscitate is just an incredible build around that it's going to be used so frequently, right? It's in the combo deck too for resurrecting very specific things. People were building like Protoss versions because resurrecting your discount Protoss dude plus Void Ray is really good.
I mean, it's 12 mana worth of stats for 5 mana. Yeah. Just like realistically, I mean, maybe it's not really 12 mana, maybe it's closer to 8, right? Because the reborn copies have 1 health, but like you're getting 6 mana worth of stats on board immediately. And these are stats that these are minions you chose to put in your deck, so you want them back. And then you're giving them reborn for them to be there again. Like it's just a lot, and it's very good. And it's just a matter of figuring out like what are those minions that you want to get back again. But there's going to be something, and it's going to be disgusting.
So we didn't play a strict Wilted Shadow deck, but I definitely saw other people playing just strict Wilted Shadow decks. Like there was... So Wilted Shadow, as a reminder, is the 7 mana 7/7 lifesteal. Whenever you heal an enemy, this attacks it. So you do this with Careless Crafter, which is a 3 mana 3/3 Death Rattle, get 2 0-cost bandages that restore 3 health. And you can get a lot of bandages from Careless Crafter because you've resuscitated it, for example, and that gives it reborn, so you get even more of those bandages. One thing that we saw a lot of people doing that's not in this list here was Pyromancer and just a ton of cheap spells.
Yeah.
Could totally clear boards. And you can heal the Pyromancer to keep going. And
also you have Cloud Serpents because Wilted Shadows and Elementals, so you can get more Wilted Shadows if your first one isn't enough. You can just have another one and then do it all over again.
But you also are using Rest in Peace to get them back.
Right.
So, you might Wilted Shadow, use a couple bandages to like clear a board, heal up, stabilize, whatever. It gets killed. That's fine, because then later you either go double Rest in Peace or you go Tyrande Rest in Peace, which is fine that's 10 mana because all the bandages cost 0. So
yeah. And then your opponent dies, so you You don't have to, it doesn't matter. And also, like, even when you're just playing it out, like, it's healing you for 7 each time that you hit with it, which is almost certainly going to bring you back up to full, no matter where you are. Because, like, you probably have bandages, you probably have, like, you're doing it with a hero power or a flash heal or whatever, right? So you're almost certainly going to heal all the way up. It's like the old, oh god, what was the blade, like Samuro apotheosis, right? Like back in those days where it was just like it didn't matter what your opponent did, you were going back up to 30 at the end of that turn. It's a little bit slower than Samuro apotheosis, but it's not that much slower.
Yeah, so we'd had a lot of discussion, I think, in the Discord about like Wilted Shadow going to be like a real thing. And again, theory crafting, we don't really know. It worked in theory crafting doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the actual meta, but it did seem to work pretty well in this, and people were able to get a lot of bandages and do a lot of damage. Yeah. And Resuscitate, I think it's just going to be like, it's good in aggro, it's good for incredible build arounds, like for Wilted Shadow, it's good in control, like whatever.
Yeah, it's just going to be a core priest card for a while. I think like it's going to be what you're building priest decks around for at least the next set, maybe the next couple sets, I would say.
Yeah.
And even if you have something that isn't like, you don't necessarily need your 1-drop, 2-drop, and 3-drop to all be like the perfect death rattles. Like if you just have like a random 2-drop, that's fine. But some things you might, like if you really want to hit Careless Crafter, for example, you might just have Careless Crafter. But people were also, of course, playing a lot of the Quest Priest. And those can get really scary. The Quest reward, right? If you combine both halves of it, it's 2 8/8s with Taunt and Reborn, and they deal 10 damage each time they die to a random enemy. And you can copy it with the Cloud Serpent, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have had 2 Cloud Serpents in my list. Like, easily. Like that, like that's just what you want to be doing, is you just want to make it, you want to make those, as many of those as possible. And then just, it's going to end games. Like, the only reason we beat the priest that was doing that is because we had the warrior quest and Tortolas that were soaking the damage, and also we had all those imps that were just soaking because it's to a random enemy, so you can make a wide board and kind of soak those. And priest still doesn't have a lot of great ways to be able to clear a board like that and play the quest reward all at the same time. And I mean, you'd have to kill it off too. So, I mean, I guess the way you would do that is by having a way to kill off the entire board at once, which is really like Ceaseless Expanse, or I guess maybe you run light bombs if that's what you're doing, just to be able to actually kill your things off along with most of the rest of the board. That might be a thing that we consider doing.
I mean, but also like, oh no, I'm hitting you for 8 in the face with my minion that's not dead. You know?
Yeah.
No. I'm saying like if you killing it off and they have a bunch of like 1/1s on board, that it's going to soak the damage because it's to a random enemy when it dies.
Right.
So you would ideally would want to kill off them along with as much of the opponent's board as possible to try to get those shots to go face.
I'm definitely going to mess around with some kind of build that's like very spell heavy and focused on, using Cloud Serpent to get copies of them, minimizing other death rattles so that you can Umbra to replay that, and also finally time to play New Raza, right?
Yes, that actually was the one of Tombear's that we played.
Yeah, there's just like the problem is that you have to really balance how much damage you're going to need to do with the not dying, because the not dying was also the hard part, right? And like the things like the Cloud Serpent and the Razas, they are great for closing out a game against a Death Knight. They are not great about getting to the point where you can play the quest reward against like a Murloc Paladin.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that may be a little tricky to figure out how to build, I think. But it is a powerful quest reward. One thing that we definitely decided was that Twilight Mender is not it. That's the death rattle, get a random Holy and Shadow spell. There's just so many expensive things you don't want.
They're bad, really bad Holy and Shadow spells. Like we got like the one of the Paladin like 6 mana auras, which was just
Celestial
like okay.
Aura. Yeah.
It's I felt like the gravity falls me of like, wow, this is useless. Like it was just like we were never gonna have time. If we had time to play that, we didn't need to finish the quest. Like it just wasn't gonna matter.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun with it. I'm glad to have so many things to experiment with.
I'm looking forward to hopefully playing Priest on day 1 for more than 3 games. Knock on wood, this is the time. Don't let me down, Blizzard.
I'll be playing Death Knight, so. Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at CoinGetSeed.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com, and subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@CoinConcede. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at CoinConcede, and if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Yeah, CoinConcedes, just like real quick, because this is a long one.
I'm going to CoinConcede to Donkey because, I mean, their tools just get better and better every time. And like, there have been some Theorycrafting streams where I've spent 3 hours the day before getting like all of the lists in and having to correct them because none of the codes worked, and like everything just worked really smoothly, and I was able to get everything. Like we had 27 deck lists to start the stream, and I got those all loaded up in like 15 minutes. It was great. So the deck builder on the site is really good. The deck sheets that we're using today on the stream were really nice to be able to keep everything organized and just have one link for everything to be. And then all the codes worked, so I was able just to import them in the client. So bravo. Could not 10 out of 10, no notes.
Well, I will again coin concede to Rhodey for the well-timed coin concede, as well as just always coin concede to everybody on the Hearthstone team who puts together the Theorycrafting events, and thanks to the team for letting us participate, because it's very helpful in being able to preview the expansion, and it's really fun, and I'm glad we're able to bring it to all of you as well. Our long discussions about what we did, so thank you to them.
Cool. And I'm going to see Raven, who always does like the production side of things for these Theorycrafting streams, which means he doesn't get to actually play. So he takes one for the team on that. He does get paid a little bit more than us, but yeah, I appreciate that I get to play on my off time while he takes care of all that.
Well, so that's gonna do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and remember to pick the discovery you don't want. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.